Excellent. I'm very happy everyone's here. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Alex Smith, and she'll talk about science is booming.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alex Smith. I am the creator of Science is Booming, and I am here today as a teacher advocate, as a student advocate, and as an advocate for boom learning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've prepared a presentation for you, but the goal of my short webinar today is essentially to, there we go, give you some tips and some implementation ways that you can, or some implementation methods or ways that you can use these in your classroom. I started using boom cards only about a year ago, and I have developed a lot of resources that I use in my own classroom. And they have absolutely saved my life through this really trying time as a teacher and as a learner. We have dealt with some unprecedented times. And this has really been a great way for my classroom to be a really engaging place, both virtually and in person. And so it's kind of works seamlessly in both atmospheres. And I'm excited to get to share that with you today. So again, my name is Alex. I'm here from Alaska, and I'm so excited to get to share these with you. Before we kind of get into the gist of everything, I want you to become a boom believer. And I'm going to give you 6 reasons why these are just essential to just another tool that you can use in your classroom. Number 1, boom cards are digital task cards. And digital allows it to have so many different layers than a 2D, sheet of paper, just a task card itself. They can be used in in-person learning and distance learning. They can be used in group settings, and I'm going to show you lots of different ways that you can implement those today. This is a new buzzword that we've been hearing a lot of, but I really love this buzzword because it jives with our students. Boom cards are gamified. They present this sense of challenge, this sense of, hey, I have to get this score to beat this level kind of mentality. And most of us know students really thrive off of that kind of a learning implementation. Number 3, they're self-grading. And as a teacher with 6 different laboratory-based preps, I struggle some days to get my grading done. That's the reality of life for us. And so to have this tool be able to give me data at this extraordinary level and then also be self-grading so that my students are getting instant feedback has been absolutely wonderful for my classroom. It allows me to fill in gaps and address gaps and misconceptions. And it also allows for students, number 4, to self-correct themselves. So encouraging self-correction is this huge feature that boom cards have. It addresses students' misconceptions, and it provides them the opportunity to learn from their mistakes in real time. And so something that may have just been oops, I forgot that, or oh, hey, I knew that, I thought something, something got scrambled in my brain. And they get a chance to correct themselves and they learn it. And I will prove that with the data in a couple slides from here. But that self-correction feature, I can't lie, is probably one of the best things about boom learning, just allowing students to be able to advocate their needs and to correct themselves in real time. Number 5, boom cards are extremely engaging and interactive. My kids sometimes get a little silly. They do dances. They love to beat the boom card. But not only that, teachers and designers of boom cards have made boom cards multi-step. They have made these visual aids so incredibly interactive and engaging for your students, manipulatives that they can move and adjust in real time. Has been truly game-changing in my classroom. And then lastly, don't be afraid if you just think, oh, digital learning tool, because there is a print feature. And I think this is maybe one of the undercover best things about boom cards, is that you can work around a student's technology needs. Maybe you don't have all students that have one-to-one options. Maybe you got scrambled into distance learning, but there are options for you. And I want to make sure that I advocate those today. So here we go. The first thing that I want to show you, and while I'm talking, I'm just going to show you an example of a boom card that I've made on types of blood cells. This is that self-correction feature. And I believe that it's so encouraging because if you see here, this student, which is really me, knows the majority of this information really well. And then they start to second guess themselves here. Really, that card should go under platelets, but we'll just set it here for the sake of it. It kicks out the things that you don't know, but it shows you all the stuff you do know. And correcting yourself becomes that much less. And I just really love that feature about Boom is, hey, look at all the things you've mastered. And here, go ahead and correct your misconceptions here real quick. And if I have students play this twice, if I have students play any deck twice, they normally mastered those things that they miss. That is majority of the time they're mastering those things. I'll come back to the data piece in just a moment. Okay, so looking at the data, this slide looks a little crazy, but I will advocate that the data is an absolute dream for a teacher, especially a teacher who really drives their instruction from data. And so if you look here, our first slide that I have, or the first card that I have over here, shows what an individual student's report would look like after they've played a digital task card deck, after they've played one of the boom decks. And it shows you, so I think this is just really brilliant, it shows you how many play sessions they've had and what their score was between those play sessions. And so we see here, just in a matter of 4 minutes, this student has gone from a 67% of retention of whatever concept this card was looking at to a 92% retention of that concept. And I truly do believe that is from seeing it in a visual way that they can interact with it and they can also self-correct. If you look down here at the accuracy map data, this is great. This shows you their oldest play versus their most recent play, and if they got that card correct or not. And here's what I love about this is here we see 3 different circumstances of a student correcting their misconception. And what I see right here, and in real time in Boom Data Learning in the actual interface, I can click on, oops, sorry. I got excited. I can click on this area and see what exact card that student kept getting incorrect. And then I can close that gap super quickly. I can hone in on exactly what my students' needs are. Down here, it shows you how quickly your students respond. Maybe you have eager clickers, and you can get to the root of some other instances of learning that way. This is fun. This looks like the gaming kind of platform. You win gems, you get points. It tells you what your average best time was, what your score is. Kids love to see this. This looks like kind of a video game for them. And when they see a word like mastery and time and how many plays you've had, that goes back to video games. And kids love video games, and that resonates with them. And they have a goal for their intrinsic motivation to beat your boom deck. It really promotes engagement. Down here, you can see that I just have a sample of my dichotomous key deck, just being able to identify organisms based on their traits. And I can see as each student, I can see as a whole class, how many students answered questions correctly or incorrectly. So I can identify where I may have not taught something to the best of my ability or where I may have misconstrued some information. So this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to data. And I would very much encourage you to check out the data piece sometime. I am definitely here to talk to you, and Boom does a fabulous job of supporting teachers kind of navigating this piece. So please be sure to kind of look through it and then know that we're all here to support that learning process for you. All right, so let's talk about Boom in your room and why you can use it and how it's so important. Here I have pictured a couple of students. I love to review notes using Boom cards. I love to give them just quick little formative assessments that go over things that we've already learned or activities or labs that we've done. And it kind of gauges how much did you retain during that learning process. And that helps me really guide my labs and activities to be more fulfilling and meaningful. Here I've given you a multitude of ways that I have personally implemented Boom cards and have seen other educators implement Boom cards. Please know there are so many ways to implement these things, and you can really let your creativity blossom. Boomlearning.com has some extremely innovative educators making resources that I really encourage you to check out. So a few of mine, and I know that you can read, I'll go through these quickly, but note reviewal, as you see pictured here, guided tutorials. I'm going to show you a video of that in just a moment. Just extra practice. If you have digital learners, or if you're linked to Google Classroom, or you have time at the end of the day, just extra practice. Homework assignments, they're self-grading. Quizzes, tests, again, self-grading. Data is beautiful. You can allow for 2 takes, 1 take. You can randomize the questions so you can omit the need to peek at your partner. The print feature is huge. We'll get to that at the very end. I personally, as a science teacher, love to use these as lab station guides so I can be in 10 places at once. I love to use these as bell ringers or warm-ups, unit reviews or challenges. Sometimes I use them as scavenger hunts. Vocabulary, skill application, escape rooms, Jeopardy reviews, it's endless. It's really endless. So let me show you a few of the ways that you can use those in your classroom. I'm gonna have two videos kind of simultaneously here. Over here off to the right, you can see some students that I'm just asking to review and apply their basic knowledge of, we were looking at metric measurements and how to navigate between centimeters, millimeters, kilometers, such as that. Over here, I have a student taking an exam. They are given some task cards that are talking or that are asking them about things that we've learned in class. It's visual, it's interactive. It looks like the diagrams that they've seen. It's also very close to some of our online testing platforms, our standardized testing platforms that we see. And so I think it helps students engage with that piece. I know we're from all different parts of the world, but standardized testing online tends to take a similar format. Another idea so I really love, this is me here, and I love to turn off the question randomization feature and lead a guided practice. So I'll stand in front of the class on my Smartboard. I'm lucky enough to have one. You can definitely do this with any projection screen. You'll just need to navigate it from your computer mouse. But I like to stand in front of the room and have students talk to me as we go through new concepts or guiding our way through learning concepts. Here you can see we're learning about different potential energy and kinetic energy as a roller coaster moves through its course. One of my favorite features is that students can always use the Smartboard, because students love to use the Smartboard for some reason. They're the bane of my existence, but students love them. So over here you see two students who are working together to answer questions, and they're not being timed. They are just really excited to go about these boom cards. You can see that they're almost fighting over it in a really nice way. They're working together, they get excited, they're helping each other, they're collaborating. I just really love to see the students, one, use tools that they love to in the classroom, like a Smartboard, and to really show me what they know, even in front of their classmates. Okay, so that print feature, which I think is super important because we are all over the place as teachers. We may not all have one-to-one access. Equity in technology is not quite where it needs to be. So Boom has made it up for that, and you can print any Boom deck that you purchase or that you make or that you find for free. There's one small caveat here, and the caveat is that if items are layered in your Boom card, so for example, if I had some cards stacked on top of each other and asked the students to move those pieces almost if it was like a deck of cards, it would be difficult for you as a teacher to use that as a print deck because you can't see those layers underneath in the PDF view. However, for most decks, this is not an issue. I tried to lay things out in my cards so that I could print them if I need to. You can find that action under literally the action button next to any deck that you may buy or create. And there is a print feature in there. Once you do that, you can select how many cards the PDF will generate for you, just the same as like a Google Slides or a PowerPoint or a Keynote feature. It will say, do you want 1 card per slide, 4 up to 9? And then you can print those cards on one piece of paper. There's a couple ways that you can work around maybe not having the movable piece feature. Sometimes I just flat out laminate the cards and reuse them and have students use dry erase markers to show me where correct answers may be. And I use those in station work and come around and check in on them. Another way to go about doing this is to make 2 copies of a card, and then you can cut out and laminate those movable pieces, and the students can manipulate those as if they were a digital resource. Again, I'd love to talk to you more about this, and I'm sure Broom would as well, but kind of an undercover, really important feature that has really helped me throughout this year navigating those technology needs in my students. So me personally as a science geek, and I'm hoping maybe you can wrap your head around some ways that you could use this in your own personal classroom, but I love to use this as like digital lab or activity facilitation. Last year when I was virtual, it crushed me because I have so many labs that I just deeply love, and I love watching my students be able to explore and wonder about their world through inquiry and science. And so what I was actually able to do is I was able to do those labs for myself and take pictures along the way. And I was able to implement those pictures into my Boom cards. And my students had a digital way of still seeing what I wanted them to see and manipulating what I wanted them to manipulate. It just happened to be on a screen. And so it really is, for those of you who are familiar with maybe like a PhET learning program or any interactive tutorials that you may find online, Boom is your place to do this. If you have one that you really love personally, it is very simple to make these. Another idea that I have, and I'm going to go ahead and play the audio for this one, but as a science teacher and, just as a teacher in general, we find ourselves needing to be in 10 plus places at once, most of the time. And this I found is a really good way for me to omit confusion with my students and kind of allow them to have a pseudo me at their station. So I can walk around and ask those deeper questions. I can really get to the source of higher level critical thinking, and I can really prompt my students into giving me some really awesome information if they're not confused on the basic skills that they need in order to perform a laboratory. So I'll go ahead and play this for you with the audio.
Let's review the proper way to use a graduated cylinder and how to make sure we are using the tool correctly to measure accurately. The first thing we want to do is locate our scale or our measurements on our graduated cylinder. We can see here that we have a 25 milliliter graduated cylinder. If I want 15 milliliters of liquid, I locate where 15 is, and I have to remember to measure to the meniscus.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn my audio off for that video there, but I was able to just record myself in lab during my prep time, simply showing students how to use a lab tool, right? A graduated cylinder, a beaker. We go into how to use the dropper to make sure that you're as accurate as possible. And in doing just this, I am able to guide my students step by step through a lab procedure, and I honestly 90% of confusion that comes about. And so I really just love this way. You use Venmo, video uploading service. And again, Boom can talk to you about that. But it's super user friendly, and I just record myself on my iPhone. I have a pop socket, so I just set it up that way. And I record myself doing whatever I need to do to show my students how to be successful in a lab or activity. And then they feel comfortable and they feel confident and they have the skills necessary to take them through lab, which gives me such more meaningful interactions with my students. So I really want to advocate this, not just for science, but if you have any activity where you feel almost breathless, repeating yourself for students, this is a great way to omit that. Just a lot of extra stress lifted. They feel comfortable, they feel confident, they know what they're doing, and they can go forth. So I did want to really speak specifically on the secondary level. All of the methods that I've shown you have been applicable to any grade level. Specifically for secondary boom cards, I cannot say enough about this high level of thinking that boom cards can promote. So here I'm showing you a deck that I've created on acid-base neutralization reactions, where students have to predict products of an acid-base reaction. They need to balance an equation. They need to understand which pair would, or which element or molecule would donate electrons versus accepting electrons. This is very high level thinking. This is putting a lot of very abstract chemistry concepts together in a way that students can visualize and feel comfortable doing. These are things that we practice in class. And now they're not seeing questions they've never seen before. What they're seeing are exact replicas of activities we've done, or guided tutorials we've done through class. And so I want to break the stigma that boom cards do not belong in the secondary atmosphere, because they absolutely do. They have made my classroom a place of inclusion. They've made my classroom a place where I can really address needs of students. They've made my classroom a place of fun, but they've also encouraged a really high level of critical thinking just by really putting together all of the things that we've learned in a lesson in a very visually stimulating way. It's not boring. It's interactive. It's fun. It's colorful. It's meaningful. That really does matter. You know that. You know that as a teacher that matters. So the last thing, I want to show you a goofy little photo. My student here just loves boom cards. Whenever he gets one right, he dabs. And he just jumps out of his seat and he hoots and he hollers, and they love it. And it's so much fun to watch their positive interactions around. I had a pair of students the other day. Hey man, I know you got 11 out of 12, but I bet you can get 12 out of 12. Let's keep doing it. Let's do it again. And they retook it together because they wanted to get a perfect score. Students love it. They love that gamified mentality. They love how visual it is. They love the images, the videos. They love to be able to manipulate things. It's like a video game. And I think, it's okay to play into that love if students are genuinely learning. And I've seen nothing but that from Boom so far. So I really do think your students would do a silly dance like this if you gave them the opportunity to learn through Boom. I just wanted to summarize. I think I speak a little fast when I'm nervous, but I wanted to summarize by saying I'm here to talk to you. I am not here to advocate my personal store necessarily. I definitely take pride in my resources. I love being a secondary science educator. I know how amazingly informative and engaging this tool has been in my own classroom, but I want you to know that that I want you to reach out to me. If you have any other ideas of how to implement or questions about how to implement or even design Boom cards, I'm here to support that learning process. I just really believe as an educator, our lives can be tough. And the more that we have in our toolbox that can really alleviate some of that stress is definitely worth it. So I'm here to talk. Here's 4 different ways you can talk to me. I'm on Instagram, kind of. I think I have like 12 followers. I have a website, scienceisbooming.com. I'm on Teachers Pay Teachers, and then I am definitely available on Boom Learning, which I would encourage you to check out first because I have free resources available for you there. If you'd like to check out, I do have a scientific method deck that is pretty much appropriate for grades, I would say 7 through 12. And then I also have a science sampler deck of a couple different cards and their features of ways that you could use these in your class. So please be sure, just for taking the time to view this tutorial, view this webinar today, that you grab yourself some free resources or at least tell a science educator that you love about them. So again, I'm Alex and I'm here to talk whenever, and I know we'll have a Q&A here. And again, this will be recorded and shared with you so you can go back to any of these, but if I can support you in any way, please let me know. That is the end of my presentation right now.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Alex. I love your presentation. That is very excellent, very informative. And we have some questions coming in. I'll start with Anna's question. I think I'm saying Anna or Anna. How often do you use Boom cards in your science secondary classes? Is it daily or according to the lesson or other?
I think it definitely depends on the, that's a wonderful question, Anna, by the way, and thank you. I think it definitely depends on your kind of culture in your classroom. And, every classroom is different. Some classes love them so much that if I don't use them daily, I kind of hear some griping from. So I've implemented those as their bell ringers or their daily warm-ups. Others, I use it like salt and we sprinkle it in when we need them. But ultimately, I'm using them more often than I'm not using them. I would say in a given class that is laboratory based, I'm using them at least 3 times a week to reinforce and to really give myself data on how well I'm teaching things. So I do think it's a matter of personal preference. I do have more positive interactions with students on Boom cards than negative interactions by far.
That's very good to hear. I'm happy to hear that. There's another good question. Which cards would work for secondary students?
So another wonderful question. I would really encourage you to check out the store on boomlearning.com, sign up for a free account, and then just really cruise through that store. 1, there's ample free resources. And then 2, you can search any topic under any subject, and I guarantee you will find something. There are very innovative educators that have taken advantage of this tool because they know how important it is in their classroom. And I feel confident that you could find almost any resource. I know specifically we had a lot of speech pathologists in here, and last webinars was on that as well. And there are ample resources on that. So cruise through it, see what you can find, but I guarantee you'll find something in your resource bank.
Yeah, I believe that's true. There's lots of things in the Boom store, and there's some free things too to help get started and start building lots of teaching materials in your library. Anna asked another question, wondering if there will be future options to translate Boom cards or edit them.
So I'm not quite sure. Okay, so what I'm gauging from that is like, can I transfer Anna a deck and can she edit it from there, or can they then edit it from there? And ideally in the future, that would be beautiful and wonderful. And Boom works, I will just say this as somebody who's followed Boom from early on, they work tirelessly to listen to their creators. and to make sure that the boom cards are adapted to a creator's need, which are predominantly teachers. And so, and maybe Boom can speak further on this. While I don't know of that feature right now, I know that I'm able to share my resources with colleagues through email, even paid resources, and they're able to use those. And then, you know, I may just make a copy of a deck and make some edits for them and not publish it to the public, and just work with my personal teachers that I know of that way. I think that the exciting part about Boom is there's so much room to grow here, and it's already such a powerful tool. So I just see nothing but positive things from here on out.
Yeah, I think the best answer to is just to say that if you create them, you have lots of control and power over what you can do with what you create yourself with the studio, to share them or work collaboratively and things like that. Another question from Alexandra. Do you assign the boom cards, or do you just use them in the classroom visually?
So I've done this both ways. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go ahead and do my paid account when I was fresh new to Boom Cards. And so I did a fast play, and I had my students, which does not collect data for the record. A fast play link will allow your students to play the deck. However, it doesn't collect their data. And my students loved it so much, I knew this was a tool that I needed to have in my classroom. So I went ahead and I bought a membership, and now I have this collection of data that is just portfolios long on each and every student. And so I think that's like a really important feature of it. Sorry, I think I got a little tangented. Could you repeat the question? Oh, sorry. I think you're muted, Kyle. I put you on the spot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am muted. I think to reiterate the question Alexandra's asking is, do you always assign them, or do you sometimes use fast play too, or
and then
your own
so
screen?
Thank you, Kyle, so much. I'm sorry. We're on Google Classroom right now with my certain school district, and Boom Cards implements super easily into almost all Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom, almost on all online school platforms. And so now I do assign them. But when I assign them, my students are already added into a classroom. And so I'm not constantly having to post a new Boom card. They just go to Boom Learning, or they bookmark it, and they are automatically enrolled in their classroom, and they see whatever new decks were assigned to them underneath there, and they can adjust their avatars, which they love. And there's a lot of personalization features that come with that, going back to that gamified aspect.
Yeah, avatars are fun. They're like cute little animal pictures.
I like the monocle deer. He's my favorite.
Yes, me too. There's another question. How do you use them with a Smartboard?
So my Smartboard has the feature, right, to move things on it. I can touch my board, and it's almost the same as if I'm touching the mouse on my computer. And so literally all you have to do is you click on the deck in your library, and it will come up with that preview version for you, as if you're playing the deck. And again, I'm happy to help support that for anyone who's confused. But if you click on that deck in your library, it will come up in a real-time play mode on your screen. And from there, you can just go ahead and full screen it. And if you turn off under actions the question randomization feature, then you can walk your students through on their one-to-one devices, or just at the front of the classroom if they don't have that, through a Boom deck by manipulating those pieces, and then, you know, clicking submit and seeing maybe where students' misconceptions are. So I really love the guided tutorial aspect of that, especially for subjects like chemistry or physics, where it's just one part of a problem that throws us off and makes us think that we don't know the entire thing.
That's funny. You learn something new every day. Someone's using preview plays. Right. I, never thought preview plays would have that much value, but apparently even those are quite useful.
Sometimes, sorry to interrupt you, Kyle, sometimes I'll even just make myself a student in the class. And so I'll go to classroom view, and I'll just click on Miss Tannehill, and then it will record my data too. Normally I'm not concerned with that. So a quick way to navigate around that is just to preview play it.
Yes. Wow. I'm amazed. There's another question. Can you use the Boom cards for an entire group, or only individually?
An entire group of students could, So and I'm seeing this a couple different ways. So if you are fortunate enough to have one-to-one devices in your classroom, which can be anything from an iPad to a Chromebook to a PC to a Mac, Boom works on all of them. I have students who play Boom on their cell phones and it works and it's fine. So if we're talking about a whole group implementation, then generally I'll turn off random question and we'll do a guided tutorial. If we are talking about a whole group taking a test, I'll turn on random question and then they're not, tempted to peek at their partner or what have you. I think, a lot of the times I'll even do it like groups, as if like Quizlet or Kahoot, other formats like that, where a couple students can be around one screen. Sometimes I don't have the screens travel with students and that Boom deck just stays at a station for a lab. So I think it just kind of depends on your personal preference, but yes, I've used them in full group settings and they're really wonderful because they keep us all on the same page and they record data in real time. So I could see where somebody may have been like really unsure of themselves. I think I answered that question. If I didn't, please respond.
I'm reading through Q&A right now, but I think that's a good answer. There's another one. What types of activities do you create the most with Boom cards?
So when I first started creating, it was mostly I had in mind like extra practice or formative / summative assessment type questions. And then as I began working through it, I realized that there were so many different layers of implementation, many of which I haven't even started to delve into yet. So me personally, I developed lessons for a very high level of thinking in terms of secondary science education, those kind of abstract concepts. I'm trying to bring those to life in a visual way. I'm trying to really make sure that piece by piece, students are able to connect abstract concepts. I think that's the primary goal of my resources. Now I have to brag on some other educators on Boom. There are mystery picture reveals. There are escape rooms. It's truly incredible the power that Boom gives teachers to create just, what's in their brains. We are the most creative individuals alive, and that really comes to life on Boom. So my resources personally are for visual connection to abstract concepts that are not often, you can't see cells, organelles all the time. And so I want to make sure that you can understand those cell organelles in a visual way.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, I think there's one more question, and I'm curious about this too, if you know if a video can be used as an answer. I think with Flow Magic, you can perhaps make it go to the card that you want with a video on it.
And unfortunately, I didn't even brush on Flow Magic, but Flow Magic is a tool that has been used by other Boom creators. I just have a few decks that use this tool, but this takes that whole new layer to an extra layer of awesome. But Flow Magic is essentially a way to almost hot link a card to another card. And so if you have a certain answer and you click, it's like a Jeopardy screen, right? And so if you click the wrong answer, it may take you to a screen that says, hey, let's review this concept and go back to that card. Or, hey, you got that right, advance. And so Flow Magic really helps almost be a teacher in place of a teacher having to stand there and reteach those tiny things. It helps students be able to navigate those pretty intrinsically, pretty autonomously. And I think that's really important. So, I don't know that off the top of my head. If a video can truly be an answer, I implement them more to make sure that students don't have confusion on what I'm asking them to do, and they can see it and they have captions of it for all different types of learners. But I love that idea and I'm going to have to look into it. See, implementation methods, it's amazing.
Yes, I've just been contemplating it myself. You could just make a Flow Magic correct answer to a card with the video that you picked. So it's possible. I think a little counterintuitive perhaps, but Oh, there's another question. Where do you get your images from to create Boom cards with?
So a lot of my images I create in a program on my iPad called Procreate. I like to design my own clip art. I need to give credit to two clip artists here. Studio Divana and Number 2 Lead Pencil are incredible secondary science. Don't steal all their clip art from me. They're incredible secondary science clip artists. So you can find a multitude of images by just searching through Boom Learning itself. They have a whole image platform. I would share my screen right now, but I think I'd have to log into Boom Learning. But when you go into the store, there's an option to search for just images. And all of your Boom Learning creators for images will have their clip art, if they want to sell it, or their images posted there. I happen to live in Alaska and we have a lot of wildlife here. So I will often try to post images of random wildlife or things like that. But you can find everything from a fork to a grizzly bear on there. So Boom has taken care of that. They have thought about that very thoughtfully in advance. And there is an image search feature on there. Generally, we're talking like 10 cents for something that you could use forever.
Yeah, or you can sort by price low to high, and then it will show anything that's 0 points first. So you can add some clip art to your studio that way. There's another question here. Can you tell us a little about your class? Assuming it is general education, but do you have many students who receive special education service as well?
This is a great question. So oftentimes I have students that may not necessarily, it may not be the best fit to have them have a certain set of Boom cards. And there's a couple ways to navigate this. So one thing I can do is I can create a separate classroom that allows me to add my special education students into that. And I can assign them alternative decks where they're not recognizing, any difference in their learning. They're doing Boom cards just the same way, but their deck may be at a level that's more appropriate for them. So just creating a separate classroom sometimes can omit that, kind of issue with, oh, well, I'm not doing what my other peers are doing. Another way to kind of navigate this is there's a hide card feature. And, as you preview your deck, you have the option to hide certain cards. And you can do that from certain groups of students, right? So certain classrooms of students, you could hide specific cards from that may not be something that you're interested in assessing their knowledge on. So there are a couple different options there. Generally, I found that it is easiest to create kind of separate classrooms. I just call them groups, and students are able to navigate the decks that I assign to them from there.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to move students from one classroom to another if you need to as well. And there's a way to assign activities to individual students too, but that can sometimes be like harder to manage. So classrooms definitely help a lot.
You could also, for those of you who use Google Classroom, your Google Classroom will link up to Boom Learning and it will import your Google Classroom rosters right into there. And then you can kind of adjust your classrooms from there. So that's a really nice feature that it has as well.
Okay, that's all of the questions. If there are any more, please feel free, but I'm gonna go ahead and post some resources in the chat. Oh, 2 already did it. She's faster than me. But I will share just a couple very quick things to my screen before we end the webinar, and then I will start working on uploading it to our YouTube page, and I will do that as quickly as I can. Really quick, I just want to show you our homepage very briefly, and the little help button down in the corner. You can type anything you would like to into the help field and view our help center, where you can get access to some information about us, but there is a way to schedule a call. If you go to our guide schedule a call here, you can actually set up a time to talk to us and we will reach out to you and try to help you a little bit. For now, I'm going to share the webinar's cover real quick, and I want to thank everyone again for participating today with us and Alex Smith. Wow, thank you, Alex, so much for all of your hard work and your amazing insight into how to use Boom Learning. I hope everyone has benefited from your insight and your discoveries, and it would be really nice to see you again sometime in this format. So thank you again for coming to this webinar and speaking, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week and a wonderful evening.
Thank you, and thank you for everyone for your questions.